So as we get into ranking, remember, I'm not here just to say because you're 2-0, that means you're one of the best teams in the NFL. If I did not feel that you had that potential coming into the season, 2 weeks is not enough to make me totally change my mind, revert it, and just go, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. And 0-2 the same way. So let's take a look at last week. So last week's power rankings went something like this. This is the get lost, get out, get good, get great, get out. These are how we had teams. This was heading into the season, right? So the teams that were excellent, we see them up at the top. The teams that were great, we see them. The teams that we thought were good, which are playoff teams, get out, meaning I don't think you're terrible, but I do not believe you are a playoff team. And then the get lost, who I thought were going to be the worst teams in football. Some of them, obviously, we already look like we're going to be wrong on. But let's go. So week 2 of get good, get great, get out. Let's start, as always, with get lost, which is the 3 worst teams in football right now. And I think these teams are in a tier by themselves, apologize fan bases, of just how bad they truly are. The Cleveland Browns, the New Orleans Saints, and the Miami Dolphins are really, really bad. And for the Browns, it makes sense. You don't really have an answer at quarterback. Joe Flacco is a fun story. But the reality is, if you're starting Joe Flacco at 40 years old, there's another team starting a 40-year-old quarterback that I don't believe in, but they at least have historical greatness to go off of. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you're starting a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Not a whole lot going on here. The New Orleans Saints, look, man, you just lost a game to Mac Jones. And while I think that says a lot about Kyle Shanahan and his greatness, I also think it says a lot about your ineptness. And losing games to Mac Jones in the year 2025, not great. And Miami, does anyone feel good about Miami right now? Do the players feel good about Miami right now? Like, it's a lot going on in Miami. And so I think these are the 3 unequivocally worst teams in the NFL. Next tier, get out. Remember, this does not mean you are terrible unequivocally. This just means I believe that you are not a playoff team. You are underneath that mark of who I think can get into the playoffs. So, and these teams are all here for different reasons. Let's go through it. The Jaguars, I really want Travis Hunter to be successful. I love the storyline of Travis Hunter. I did think it was a little messed up that his coach decided to say, yeah, you can play more on defense when we go up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I was like, that's a little rough. And we saw him in a couple coverage snaps against Jamar Chase, and it looked, as expected, looked kind of rough. Jamar Chase, look, man, he's in contention with Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league. If you told me Jamar Chase is, fine. The Raiders, obviously they lost last night. Normally we would do this on Wednesday, and that's because I want to give myself a little space away from the best teams in or from the Monday Night Football game, but it is what it is. We're here again. No Tony today, so we're filling in some segment space. The Raiders, I think, they are clearly better. Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, that is an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell and Antonio Pierce. Do I still think they have crippling issues? Yes. I still don't think this defense is very good. I think this offensive line is not great, which you've seen. Ashton Genty, who has not gone off to a good start through 2 games. So they're better, but still not quite a playoff team. The Cowboys, who I think, honestly, we have to look at and go, are they better than we thought? Yes. Would they potentially be 2-0 if they just kept Micah Parsons? That's possible. But they didn't. And so I think there's limitations with this team. But Dak, to his credit, is playing really, really well. Brian Schottenheimer, to his credit, the offense looks rejuvenated, a little more sophisticated. Like, it looks more clever than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be one of the worst head coaching hires in the NFL. I think a lot of people did. But the reality is, look what they're doing, man. I still don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but honestly, they got to be feeling pretty good about where they're going, the direction. And they're going to get more draft picks. Like, this Cowboys turnaround might be quicker than a lot of us thought, even with Micah Parsons being gone. The New York Jets, week 1 to week 2 was always one of the best transitions, because if you come out week 1 and you look better than you thought, you feel really good about yourself. Oh my gosh, it might be us. And then week 2 a lot of times can bring you back to reality, and that's the New York Jets. Week 1, Justin Fields looks amazing. It's the Steelers defense, and it feels like, oh my gosh, do we have something here? And then week 2, I know he gets hurt, but he was reverting back to the old Justin Fields, which is you saw some of the athletic plays that he's able to create, which he'll always be able to make. And then you saw the inconsistencies passing the ball. This defense is yet to show itself. Again, the Jets, in my opinion, are a few high-end players, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and then there's just a lot of okay. The Falcons. I really like the direction the Falcons are going. I don't think that beating J.J. McCarthy in his second ever NFL start is necessarily the thing you hold your hat on, as if the defense is getting much, much better. But I like Michael Penix a lot just off eye test. I know they didn't score a lot of touchdowns, there's a lot of field goals on Sunday, but I like Penix, the direction they're going. The Panthers I'm a little disappointed on. I thought Bryce was going to be able to continue this momentum. So far through 2 weeks, it doesn't feel like it, and so with that, I can't really move them much higher. The Titans, Cam Ward has shown flashes, but this team is just not good enough. The only reason they're not in get lost is because I think Cam Ward has looked really good through 2 weeks, just on, again, eye test level. The Giants, I don't know. I know, right now it looks great, New York. You're actually, so New York is, again, week 1, they're the opposite of the Jets, where the Jets really liked how they looked week 1, did not like how they looked week 2. The Giants, week 1, did not like how they looked. Everybody was ready to get rid of Russell Wilson, get Jackson Dart in there. And week 2, Russell Wilson's thrown for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. I also don't think that's consistent whatsoever. And how many 400-yard, 3-touchdown games are you going to get from Russell Wilson? I don't think a lot. So the Giants, not a playoff team, still in my opinion. The Patriots, are we sure Drake May's good? Look, man, and I like Drake May. I think I had higher hopes for Drake May, but if I'm going to go on here and say Caleb is running the risk of being the 5th or 6th best quarterback from this class, I also have to keep that same energy with Drake May, who has not played up to the level that I thought he would and has not looked like the quarterback that I think he would. I think we all think, oh, he looks the part. He's young, he's big, he's talented. We see the arm talent. But, like, is he? The Cardinals are beating up on weak teams. I just don't really believe in the Cardinals. This is kind of a gut feeling one. You're beating 2 bad teams. Cool. I want to see what it looks like when you're going up against real competition, and I just don't believe you're as good, especially in that division, as you might not even be as good as the 49ers, who I wasn't the highest on, and I still definitely don't think they're as good as the Rams. The Bengals, this is unfortunate. The Bengals are 2-0. We all know their struggles week 1 and 2, but they're 2-0. It looked like it's finally working out, even though they didn't play great in week 1. But Joe Burrow being out essentially this season, how high can I put a Jake Browning-led team, even with the incredible offensive firepower they have at skill positions? It's no Joe Burrow. I don't think you make the playoffs, man, and that's unfortunate. This is the hardest one and the one that sucks the most to put in get out. Get good. Look, man, and this is a lot of teams, a couple teams I think I'm willing to say that I'm wrong on, and teams that are really, really close to moving to get great. So let's start with, again, we're going in order here. This is not left to right as far as how well I think they are. These are kind of all in the same group. The 49ers. We're going to get to it later in the show. My early pick for Coach of the Year is Kyle Shanahan. You win a game with Mac Jones in 2025, you're my early pick for Coach of the Year. Christian McCaffrey, they gave him 30-plus touches week 1. They went down to 13 touches week 2, still won. He took advantage of, yes, they were playing the Saints, but Brock Purdy's out. The difference between the Niners and the Bengals, obviously, who realistically, if Burrow was healthy, would just switch spots, is that Purdy is coming back at some point. And I'm not the biggest guy on Purdy, but he wins. This offense is successful. It moves the ball when he's in there. You cannot take that away from him. Bears, you got to win next week or we got to kick you down 1. This is fundamental belief, the Bears and Texans, this is fundamental belief that I do not think 0-2 dictates that these are bad football teams. I still like these defenses. I still like these quarterbacks. I still like these head coaches. This is a fundamental belief that they are going to be good teams, make the playoffs. The Texans also, I just don't think the division's very good, so I think that helps. The Chargers probably should be up. I want to see what they look like. Again, I was not super high on the Raiders. I do think they played a Super Bowl-esque game in terms of mentality against the Chiefs week 1. I want to see what they do against Denver in week 3. I do. I still think Denver's a better team than them, but if they beat Denver, then I think there's a real argument that you should consider the Chargers might jump 2 levels into get excellent. I think that's absolutely on the board. The Steelers, again, they're 1-1. I think this is just my belief is that this is who the Steelers are. They're just the baseline for a good team. They're not going to be terrible. They're not going to bottom out. They're not a 4-win team. They're just, I keep making the joke, they will somehow end this season 8-1. That's just what they're going to do. And then we'll talk about the Colts in a second. The Seahawks, again, I think they're a good team. I think they have McDonald. I think this team is going to keep getting better and better. Sam Darnold has looked, week 1 was shaky. Week 2 was much better. I think this defense continues to get better in McDonald. I like a lot of the direction that Seattle is trending. Again, this is part of my Arizona critique. I still think Arizona is the 4th best team in the division. I think Seattle's better. I think obviously the Niners potentially are better. And the Rams, I think, are obviously way better. The Colts, look, it's not power rankings or the standings or sorry, it is power rankings, but it's not the standings where you just go, oh, this team's 2-0, they deserve to be here. That being said, when you are the best offense in the league, again, I think this is absolutely the 2024 Saints all over again. I do not believe Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts are going to be this good the entirety of the year. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and this is the Sam Darnold Vikings, right? Like, you're going to be one or the other. You're either going to be the 2024 Saints or you're going to be the 2024 Vikings. I'm inclined to think they're going to be the Saints. I watched that game. Yes, they were moving the ball against Denver. I think it was a little fluky, and they exposed the one thing Denver can't do very well, which is cover tight ends, cover running backs. But it wasn't I didn't walk out of that game overly impressed with Daniel Jones. You can still, when he's under pressure, and this is the big thing with the Saints, and even the Vikings really, when you get to that quarterback, he makes mistakes. Now, maybe their O-line is going to be great all year. But I don't believe it, but I will give them the credit at least of one more week being in get good. On to the great teams. So we had to kick a couple people down. So the Vikings, this is, despite how JJ's look, and I get it, they're starting starting Carson Wentz. This is 1,000% just my conviction and belief on how good I think Kevin O'Connell, this roster, even though they need their left tackle back, Justin Jefferson, this is my fundamental belief in everything around them besides the quarterback. And I think Carson Wentz has a chance to be, we just talked about 2024 Minnesota with Sam Darnold. I think Carson Wentz can be Sam Darnold. I think Carson Wentz can just be good enough to get them and play stable enough to where this will still be a good, really, really good football team. I think they still can make the playoffs. Is it going? Here's the thing, sorry. The Vikings are the one team that are going to sound hypocritical here because I don't think they can make the playoffs. I think the Lions are better. I think the Bears are better. And I obviously think the Packers are better. But if they get out of Carson Wentz what they got last year out of Sam Darnold and the Bears can't figure it out, they could take the Bears, what I consider to be the Bears' playoff spot, because I had the Bears making it. This is belief of everything besides the quarterback, which obviously means there's a ceiling, but when 90% of your team is great and it's just, I know the quarterback has a disproportionate value, it's hard because this is one of the best teams in the NFL. And if they had the guy at quarterback, this would be an excellent team without question. The Rams, Stafford's 37. That does make me nervous. He's had the back issues, which makes you nervous. But Sean McVay, this defense, again, I think Stafford, when it matters, is still top 5 level. I love so much about the Rams, man. This is one of my Super Bowl picks. The Buccaneers, look, it's tough because I think Tony brought it up where their defense is just not that good. And after watching him, he's got a valid point. Defense not very good. But this offense, Baker Mayfield, Ibuka, they haven't even had Tristan Wirfs yet. They haven't had Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is still just like Mike Evans is going to get you 1,000 yards until he's 50. Like, it's crazy. The Commanders, I know they looked bad against Green Bay. Here's the thing, a lot of teams are going to look bad against Green Bay. I still think this is one of the best teams. Jaden Daniels, I know he hasn't had the game yet in year 2. Still think he's very good, obviously. They're going to be fine. Looking bad against Green Bay, a lot of teams are going to look bad against Green Bay. Now to 2 of my drops that were in excellent are now in great. Denver's got to play better. This is just the reality is they got to play better. I think they're going to against the Chargers. Again, I think it's a really good sign that they turned the ball over a bunch, still won in week 1, and they had to lose on a field. They forced the Colts to 5 field goals, still had great red zone defense. Knicks 3 touchdowns. Like, there's a lot here to take away. Yes, you could say it's doom and gloom. I'm taking the opposite end, which is didn't play good in week 1, still got the win. Didn't play great in week 2, lost a heartbreaker. But if the ref doesn't make a call, which is not a super traditional call, similar to holding, like you could have a game where they just call holding a bunch. And it's like, well, you could probably call that every game. I still feel good about them. And the Chiefs, who I'm not dancing on graves until we are 0-3 or 1-3. So I will keep the Chiefs in the great tier, but I think there's a lot of Mahomes, Andy Reid, and some duct tape here. To the excellent tier, the 5 best teams in football, in my opinion. The Green Bay Packers, who might be the best team in football. They've obviously elevated. They weren't good. They have now elevated to excellent. I still think Jordan Love scares me because I think he is still a very streaky player at his core. But you can't deny the results. The Ravens, what more can you say about them? Again, you lose the way they did in week 1. I know they've lost a handful of games like that over the years, and people think that's a concern. I also think if the only way you can beat the Ravens is total implosion, I think they feel good about their chances. They just won a game. They've scored 40 points twice, right? And one of them was Derrick Henry going crazy. This last game, Derrick Henry had what? He had under 20 yards rushing. Like, it was insane. So they're going to be fine. The Bills, Josh Allen, obviously had that superhero. The best thing about the Bills, what makes them scary, is Josh Allen went full Superman to save that game in week 1. And week 2, he pretty much got to chill. Like, he just kind of obviously didn't lose the game. They know they're better than the Jets. He didn't have to be Superman, and that's going to be huge for the Bills going forward. The Lions, I know we all love to overreact to week 1. How's this offense going to be without Ben Johnson? Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? And they invite Ben Johnson back to Detroit, and they whoop him, drop 50 on him. This is still some of the best offensive personnel in the NFL. Jared Goff is going to be fine. Jared Goff is going to have games where he looks really, really bad, and he's also having games like that where he's throwing 5 touchdowns, scoring 50 points. The Lions are one of the best teams in the league. And then, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champs, go into Kansas City, win. No, did Jalen Hurts have over 100 yards passing? No, he did not. But this is the defending champs, the best team in football. They have the right to the title, best team in the NFL. They're undefeated, went to Kansas City, won again. Like, you could say they have flaws, you could say they have this. They're just like what when you break it down, what does this team not have? Again, do A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have crazy numbers through 2 weeks? No. Does anybody think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are not good receivers? Obviously not. Is the tush push potentially going to get banned? We'll see. We're going to talk about that coming up after the break. But this is get good, get great, get out for week 2 of the NFL season. This is hard. I mean, if you want to be a part of one of the coolest, most unique communities, don't forget to like and subscribe.